It is the Final Word Cricket Podcast. Adam Collins and Daniel Norcross. We're talking England. We're talking West Indies. We're talking about Edgbaston. We're talking about Ariane Titmus defending the 400 free. You fucking beauty for Westfield, London, Westfield, Stratford City. More extra, less ordinary. Daniel, tell us about the other thing in 30 seconds.
The West Indies were well on top. England were 54 for 5. This was a big comeback. This was what it was all going to be. And then, of course, it all went horribly wrong because that's what happens when a side is slightly better than another side and they play Test cricket. First Joe Root, then Ben Stokes, and, of course, finally and most majestically, it is Jamie Smith, a true phenomenon. They talk about the phenom that is Harry Brook. Look out for Jamie Smith. He is something else. Some sixes whacked into the Holly stand, some beach balls knocked around here, there, and wherever. So a couple of wickets at the back end. England massively on top. This could be over tomorrow, which ain't great for the freelancers. But,
No.
There you have it.
Yeah, I sort of teased this yesterday about the Edgbaston pitch, and I know people get very excited about the Holly Stand that all the football fans packed in there. I get that. I understand the atmosphere that it brings, and you know, you can like it all over or whatever. But I get it, and I appreciate it, and I understand it. But when you turn your attention on the 22 yards in the middle, Jamie Smith's dismissal, that shouldn't be happening on day two.
Well, it's a good bit of bowling, though. I mean,
sure. But ball's
off.
going through at ankle height or a bit above the ankle height is more my point here, really, is that that's not what you want from a test surface. And we saw evidence of that happening yesterday as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it was a disappointment, really, because he was on 95 and he batted so beautifully.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a couple of shots in there that were still my beating heart shots. There was one that I was sat doing 5 Live updates today, for those of you who want to glimpse behind the fourth wall or however many walls there are. And I got to sit next to Mark Ramprakash all day.
Oh, nice.
And Mark Ramprakash, as I'm sure you know, is a man that if you can tease a smile out of his beatific chops, it just brings joy and sunshine to you. So, unfortunately, you spend too much time trying to get a smile out of him. Let's start talking about the cricket. But there was a shot that he played, Jamie Smith, that was hitting top of fourth. It was the fourth stump. It was a ball that was where you try to bowl, actually. And a lot of the time, you might get a wicket. Sometimes batters will leave it. Sometimes batters will defend it. Jamie Smith went, I'll have some of that. Top of the bounce, crunched through the offside for 4. And you just thought, is no ball safe with Jamie Smith? The other part of his innings, which was really pleasing to me, is that I've been banging on about this lad, as you know, for a couple of years, as have you. And anybody who's seen him with their bare eyes at the Oval, they know that he's something different, just different from what you normally see. But you don't know in county cricket as much now, and this is where the old codgers do have a point. You don't quite know if he's being tested against good, fast, short bowling. And the West Indies went at him with short, fast bowling, and he didn't look remotely troubled. In fact, not only was he not troubled, he lost a ball. He smacked one into the Hollies, over the Hollies. No one is quite sure.
I think it went over.
It's a mystery ball.
I think
it went over.
You based it on the body language of they did a close-up of the crowd, the way they were looking over their shoulders, and certainly Ben Stokes all but had Johnny Bairstow's binoculars out that Bairstow sometimes has on the players' balcony to try and work out what the fuck was going on as well. So I think he might have cleared the Hollies, and it was kind of from nowhere as well. It wasn't like, I don't want to say it's against the flow of play. He was scoring at a decent clip by that stage already, but it's not what you're anticipating when, he walks in and England have genuine work to do. I know Stokes has had an important partnership worth 115 with Root by that juncture, but they're still behind on the first innings by about 120 when he walks to the middle. So that, game situation, you're not expecting a guy to play a pick-up pull shot over the Holly stand at that juncture. Nothing like it.
No, and what it was simply that Jamie Smith assessed that they were going to keep doing this. And so what are his options? Are they duck out the way? Are they try and tap it on its head for one? Because the fielder's out. It's not the easiest shot to play, the controlled tap on the head. Or, hang on, I've been selected to play in this team. I'm in the side because I'm not Ben Folkes, and they think I'm a bit better with the gloves than Ollie Robinson, and I've got to prove that. So I can't sit there and do nothing. I've got to wallop it, and he has, and he's walloped it a bloody mile. And they came at him with more short pitch bowling, and he just looked absolutely fine. And I thought, look, there's going to be better fast bowlers who are bowling at him, and at some point in this pod, we're going to have to talk about the West Indies quicks, and specifically Alzari Joseph. Whether that's now or whether that's in a moment's time, I don't know, because I haven't quite finished talking about Jamie Smith, because I think I am slightly in love with him. I think there's something about his command and his posture, his ability to play balls. It was a really mature and sensible innings, and he was undone by, as you rightly point out, a combination of the pitch, really not helping him out, and a clever bit of bowling, but Bumrah-esque in a way from Shamar Joseph, and we haven't seen enough of that from the West Indies quicks. It's a lovely cutter. It was like a fast off break. And because he hadn't bowled anything like that before, I think Smith was reasonably undone by it, because he was looking to whack it at the Hollies again, and it just went under his bat and it was hit very low down on off stump. But he was the excitement today. Joe Root was the culture, the reminder that there are just some guys of a certain age who get into their batting and for whom everything looks so supremely easy. There were some beautiful runs for the Brummie crowd from Chris Wokes. There was a very important knock from Ben Stokes. I think the saddest thing for me today, though, was that you quite rightly raised the jeopardy. And there was jeopardy when Jamie Smith walked out to bat. But, how much jeopardy do you think the crowd felt? I didn't. If they were playing against India or Australia or Pakistan, I think at 176 for 6, whatever it was.
169 for 6 it was, yeah.
69, sorry. So there's still 113 behind with Wokes and then the tail to come. You would have sensed that tension. But I'm afraid England are bossing it so much that you feel that if they get behind the game, they're just going to get ahead of it at some point.
Well, I actually think that even at 231 for 7, when Root falls, and Root gets a ball that doesn't turn off the straight from Moti, hits him in front. It's described as variable bounce, but I thought that was fine. And just to double back on my point before, you're right. Shamar Joseph does take pace off that ball, but you're trusting the bounce on days 1 and 2, and the variable bounce / turgid nature of the pitch was a contributing factor to the way that Ollie Pope was dismissed early in the day, chopping Joseph on with the angled bat. Not a good shot in the circumstance. By that stage, he should know the pitch well enough, but I suppose he was fresh to the crease, having only just gotten back from the day before. Then Harry Brook gets a good one, caught behind from the bowling of Seals, so I really want to believe in Seals. Like, I feel like that's the one for me out of all the... And I know that Joseph's got a yard, but Joseph's gone at 7s today, and he bowled some good balls totally, and earned some wickets, especially yesterday. But he's gone at 7s, and then as for Shamar's gone at 5s, and I suppose everyone goes at 5s against England, but there wasn't that sustained pressure. So the point I'm coming back to, even when Root falls, and we'll talk about Root a bit more in a sec, and look, maybe we'll talk about Root now, because he comes in yesterday at 31 for 3. And remember the bad old days when Root was captain, and it was always 20 for 2, and what he would produce would belie the state of the game. Something about Joe Root works better at 2 for not many, and they had the night watchman, so it was 3 for not many. It's about the way his brain computes the problem ahead of him, the problem-solving computations work better for him. It's like his factory settings are England are fucked, I need to do a job here. And when England are too far ahead, it precludes him from doing what he needs to do. Steve Smith had this problem after the 2019 Ashes. He came home, they played Pakistan and New Zealand. They made squillions of runs. It was the summer of Marnus coming in at 3. Warner made the triple ton, another century, big one too at the Gabba. And Smith was invariably coming in at 2 for too many to make sure that he had to do the bit where he had to switch on, because the game situation was so far shot, the bowlers were so far cooked, and he didn't adapt well to that either. And for whatever reason, Root's got a similar thing here where he does his best work when England just need him to find the extra gear. And nice piece of bowling to go on with the arm from Moti today. Gets 87, goes beyond 12,000 test runs in the process, overtakes Brian Lara. He was asked about the Sachin landmark before the series, before the test match, and he said that he was reticent to get into it because he's like, well, if I start talking about these things, I'll have a lean trot. But the way Root's playing right now, we were there when he raised his 10,000th test run at Lords a couple of years ago, Daniel. That was the chase against New Zealand that started the Bazball era. Well, 3 or 4 more years and Root might be knocking on the door of Sachin. And wouldn't that be something for a guy whose longevity is going to be part of his story as well?
Well, it's been talked about even on the final word, I believe, looking at how many runs he scores per test match, how long it would take him to do that. The simple facts of the matter are he's had a very consistent test career. And the very, very best players do have very consistent test careers. Very few extended lean trots. If he plays for 4 more years, he will be knocking on the door of 16,000. That is the way Joe Root works. He's a bit metronomic, and it's a bit like how his batting is. There are no obvious flaws in it. Really good bowlers will get it out LBW. They'll get the balls to nip back, but really good bowlers get batters out, whether they're really good batters or whether they're not really good batters, because they know how to do it. Because that's cricket, and you're allowed to get really good batters out. You're allowed to get really good balls. They're obviously, everybody's better and worse at playing certain bowlers and certain deliveries, but he is quite rightly up there with Steve Smith, Kane Williamson, Virat Kohli, Babar Azam. These are the kind of guys you talk about. He's a generational player, and if he plays another 4 years, and what was interesting about it is I think that he will. Someone like Alistair Cook was very interesting when he retired, and I had a long time with him on air last year, actually, at the Oval Test match when we had a rain break, and he was talking about why he retired, because obviously Stuart Broad had retired, and so that was the chat, and he said that it was just he realised one day what it takes for him to score runs is unsustainable. He's a very self-aware man, is Alistair Cook, when it comes to cricket. He knows the shots. When people said he's got 4 shots, they were pretty much right, and he would admit it himself. And he still does, in a very self-deprecating way to this day. Joe Root does not have 4 shots. Joe Root has many options because he plays balls so late and is very comfortable playing them so late, and it's just a slight weight transference that decides. And so unless his eyes go, he'll keep on scoring runs. The question is, does he want to keep playing? Because he's got a family, he's got a life outside that. But I don't know that he's really the kind of guy who's going to want to go into the media, particularly. Doesn't really feel like that kind of a guy.
Yeah.
And I think there's a kind of freedom that has come with not being captain that has caused his mind to get a bit scrambled occasionally, make odd choices, in order to do the right thing for his captain, but at the same time has taken an awful lot of the scrambling things away from his brain, which was having to actually be captain, that he's able to enjoy his cricket again, and he's in an environment that's enjoying it. So I don't think he's going to have to do an Alistair Cook. I don't think he's going to wake up one day and go, I can't cope with the concentration, because the talent and the balance and just he's generational. And cricket is lucky to have him, as they are the other guys I've mentioned.
Yeah, and look, Root was a long-time captain. Remember, no one's won or lost more Test matches as captain than Root for England. He did it for a really long time, from the start of the summer of 2017 onwards or something like that. Did it for ages during a relatively tough time for English cricket. Well, certainly parts of it were. He'll be a senior pro for a long time too, and he clearly relishes that. And there are unchecked boxes for him, and I think that some people get way too fixated on who is the best of this generation and so on and so forth. Of course, you can't compare cricketers directly; it doesn't work that way. But there is an opportunity there for him that probably won't be there for the other guys to go past Tendulkar. So I'm sure that'll be something.
I'll tell you what he's going. What he'll definitely do, I'm pretty sure, is he'll get to second.
Yes,
because that's
close now.
That is 1,600 runs away. Yeah. That is like a year and a half. And between now and the Ashes, he's going to play that. The only way he doesn't really get beyond Ponting, that slew, the Pontings, the Dravids, and the Callises of this world, the very few people who got over 13,000, is if he gives up after the away Ashes. And I can't really see that happening. So I think it's pretty much baked in. He'll get there. One thing we've got to say for all those shouting at the screen going, is he the best? What about Steve Smith and his average? Yeah, he's played a lot of Test matches. He's English. You get to play a lot of Test matches. And you play some of those in very testing conditions. And if you're England captain, it's pretty miserable as a job. It sounds like fun, unless you make it your own, like Stokes, but everyone's on your back. And that's going to affect some of the time that you play cricket as well. But can we talk about Alzheimer's?
I was going to say, we've got a few more bits. We've got some bits to get through, then the Hall of Fame. We don't have an enormous amount of time to do it. Ordinarily, we might talk more about Ben Stokes' 54. It was at a perfect time, 5 fours and a 6. Took them from 54 for 5 and in a real spot of bother to 169 for 6 when he was caught at square leg when trying to force the pace off Joseph, and then the aforementioned 95 from Smith, who, like we've been talking about it for ages, but looks born to play Test cricket and has the technique and temperament to match the 62 from 78 from Chris Wokes, which would have made every Brummie heart sing, I'm certain. And after taking, what did he end up with? 3 or 4 in the first innings? And
4, Alzari.
Three Wokes yesterday, but 4 in the first dig last week at Trowbridge. And he's just kind of recovered what was a bit of a middling series for him. He's had some nice moments in the last 2 test matches, and on it goes. So they end up with a 376 first innings score, which does put them in the lead by 94 runs. And Daniel, give me the 60-second version of what's going on with Alzari Joseph, and then we'll start trending towards the end of the day.
Andy Zoltzman and I, in 2 separate rooms, had exactly the same thought simultaneously, and it is, hang on a minute, has anybody conceded this many runs off this many overs in a bilateral series? I was in a 5 Live update box. He was in the TMS box, and I rushed through because I knew I was going to have to do an update in a minute. I wanted something to talk about that wasn't the same things over and over again. And I went in and I tapped him on the shoulder. I said, Andy, can you get me a list of the worst economy rates for people in a bilateral series of, I don't know, maybe he said, I'm ahead of you. And he showed me what was on his screen was everybody who'd bowled 50 overs or more in a bilateral series, right? The guy at the top, I can't quite remember his name now. He was the spinner that came. Was it Zaheen Mahmood against England in Pakistan in 2022?
Oh yes,
It
was never meant to be.
He went for 6.96. Never meant to be, and he played at Rawalpindi. He bowled an absolute enormous number of overs as well. And got shellacked everywhere, and I think he had another test match. It wasn't great. Second on the list is Alzari Joseph in this series, and it is actually shocking how he's bowling. He's a man of 27. I think I'm right in saying, Ramps told me that he's vice captain.
He is vice captain, yeah.
Of the West Indies. He's the leader of the West Indies attack, right? And his body language is terrible. I've got no idea what his stop ball is. No idea at all. I don't know where he goes to bowl 6 balls just in a row. He bowled 1 over that actually looked like he had an idea of just putting it on the spot. But he gets annoyed if he hasn't got a wicket by doing that and then goes to other plans. Yeah, he's got 4 wickets, but ask yourself, should you be going 4 for 120 odd, whatever it was? It was just horrible to see, because he's got the talent, he's got the pace, he's a good bowler in the making, but there's a kind of impatience, I think. And if you are second on that list, there's been a shitload of cricket has been played over the last 150 years. You should not be having the worst economy rate. England bowlers should be having the worst economy rate because their skipper keeps on putting everybody in, attacking all the bloody time, and trying to get a wicket off every ball. He's not, right? So, I don't know. There's no case to be rested. I just put the question out there.
Yeah.
What is this? Is this...
In the defence, if I'm going to just take a slightly different view here, it would be that it's the worst of all worlds for Joseph, because he relies on being a little bit volatile and relies on bowling short, relies on getting up here. And this England team are not for absorbing the pressure for a couple of hours. So it means he ends up with analyses a bit like this, right? He gets his wickets, right? The Stokes wicket's an example of this. He'll get his return in the wickets column, but he's going to go around to do it. It's more akin to what you might expect from a wrist spinner, right? A wrist spinner who's being paid to be ambitious and being paid to take risks and being paid to probably bowl a half tracker every over or 2. I suppose everyone bar Warne. Before Warne did that as a wrist spinner. It's tightened up a little bit in the T20 era, but you know what I'm trying to say. But Joseph's performing that kind of role. But yeah, it's against the wrong team. I remember at Perth a couple of years ago when they went for $1 million in the second dig. He really did rough up Australia and did look the business, but it was all a bit too late. Daniel, I think that we are at a point now. I know, you know what? Very, very briefly, before we move on to the final World Hall of Fame, they are 33 for 2. The test probably will end tomorrow. They're still 61 away from making England bat a second time. And we've already seen in their second innings them lose 2 wickets. Brathwaite to Wokes, an absolute beauty. Fair enough. You get that. And no one's going to sit here and say that Craig Brathwaite doesn't completely commit to the bit when it comes to being the sheet anchor opener. Gets it good and these things happen. Kirk McKenzie, on the other hand, it's not good batting. It's not clever batting doing what he's doing at that juncture. And it feels like we've had this conversation at least 2 or 3 times ourselves, Jeff and me as well, Cam and me too. Out of that group, we got Athanase, Hodge, and Mackenzie, who've played bugger all Test cricket, and we were saying if one of them makes it, it's a great result. I think we know that Hodge and Athanasi might make it. Hopefully Hodge last week, that's the turning point. I can't see it happening for Mackenzie. It's just, you need to have that. If you're batting number 3 at Test cricket, you need to be able to identify the circumstances and not get out to a pretty run-of-the-mill scrambled seam delivery that you should just not be looking to expansively drive. But it feels like his defensive shot, his leaving alone shot, is the expansive drive. And against the new ball that close to stumps, he was on a hiding to nothing. It was just low percentage cricket, not smart cricket.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, we've seen the sacrificial number 3 a few times, especially in England, because the sacrificial number 3 was there to prevent Joe Root from having to bat at 3. So, I feel for him, though, because it was a decent bit of bowling. Yep. If you looked at the pitch maps for that over, there was ball after ball in nearly the same place, and that one was just a little bit different. But, yeah, you're hanging your bat out to dry. You're coming towards the end of the day, and also your career's on the line. So... Yep. Don't do it. Shimron Hetmeyer says he wants to play Test cricket. I'd call his bluff and get him in.
Daniel, I'm going to quickly move here to the Final Word Hall of Fame. The Final Word Hall of Fame is brought to you by Westfield London and Westfield Stratford City. If you listen to last week's daily episode, you'll know that the Westfield Club and their members can claim free 3-month subscriptions to BookBeat, and it's free to join Westfield Club. So you're really leaving so much value on the table if you don't engage with these 2 offers. Why wouldn't you want to sign up to great titles such as Cricket's Hard Man, featuring the tales of Border, Ranatunga, Hollyoake, and Jardine, and a foreword by noted hardman John Buchanan, and Murder at Lords, a World War II whodunit, featuring a member of the Empire 11 getting beaten to death with a cricket bat, and Chicken Soup for the Prisoner's Soul, which is sure to warm the cockles of the heart and rekindle the spirit of hope, healing, and forgiveness for anyone tuning in who is secretly detained at His Majesty's pleasure. Westfield and BookBeat, because the alternative is Amazon. My Hall of Fame moment, Grace Brown in the time trial. She murdered them, Daniel. She flippin' murdered them by 90 seconds in the slot. Bikes going everywhere. The Australian head down, bum up, just like Kathy Watt at Barcelona on the first day of the Olympics. Well, it was Grace Brown in the time trial today. Another woman from rural Victoria, the first of 2 gold medals. Only 2 countries have 2 gold medals right now. Maybe a third if we can get off this podcast quick enough for the 4x1, women then men. It's Australia and China. Daniel, your Final Word Hall of Fame moment of the day. Quickly.
Well, apart from the fact that some woman called Mew something or other got a bronze medal, and it was the earliest bronze medal in Olympic history for Team Gene B. It was before noon, and that meant I didn't have to do 3 updates, and therefore could really chillax and have some coffee and take it easy. My Hall of Fame moment is Shoaib Bashir and the refusal of anyone in the England team to allow him to score a run. It is now becoming so completely absurd.
It is. Yes.
All right? Give the man a run, okay? He can bat. He's going to end up with Nahid Rana's record by accident, but it'll be like 25 not out noughts because he's not permitted, even though he can clearly bat. And it was, I mean, in fairness to Gus Atkinson, he then did smash 2 sixes into the Hollies and got out of his third. But Shoaib Bashir must be standing there going, you just sawed me off 100 short of 100 yet again. This is really getting on my tip.
Yeah, and they don't need to do it, though. It's not as though he can't bat. We saw in India that he can hold the stick.
I know.
It's not like we're not talking about it like a proper number 11. If we were talking about a proper number 11, I'd kind of get it. But I think they're not giving this guy the chance to prove that, what the upside for him would be he becomes a number 9 or a number 10, right? Isn't it better having 3 number 9s or a couple of number 10s than making someone your number 11? Anyway.
Yeah, Carlo, my last thought on this, because we've all got to go for the Olympics and meet at drink and whatnot, is get the final word to get a campaign, right? Let Shoaib score a run.
Let him bat. Let him bat. And not as well to
let him score. Well, let him score a run. Just just let him score a fucking run. It's just totally not fair. Because every night he comes in, he goes, and he says to his family, how'd you get on today, Bash? He goes, well, not out again. Yeah, I hit 4 or 5 right off the middle, and they went out towards, but not allowed to run. Yeah. What?
And my only other Hall of Fame, a nod to a chap called Dylan who was sat next to me at the Children's Theatre this morning, recognised me, listens to the podcast, and told me that England had lost 2 quick wickets while Winnie and I were watching the Gruffalo, which was nice to get that information as we were leaving the theatre. That's us done, Daniel. 33 for 2, the Windies closed. They're trailed by 61. We've been here for Westfield, London, Westfield, Stratford City, more extra, less ordinary. Go you good thing, go and go in hard. Go you good thing, go. Go you good thing, put a gap in them. Go you good thing, go. Good night.
Good night.